Hi everyone, welcome back to my videos. Today I'm going to do a Papilionanthe Orchid, which is quite an exotic one. This is a picture of it from Alan Dunn's book. Oops, let me get the card out. I'll just turn that out round there. Just bring my camera down to my board. So that's what the orchids look like. So I'm going to get straight into it. Oops, get that out of the way. So what I'm doing is I'm using templates because I know that a lot of people don't have all the cutters. I have got the cutters somewhere, but rather than doing that, because I've got a lot of these templates on my website. I have got it here somewhere. What you'll find on my website is this. So this is the templates that you'll find, so you can cut them out yourself and do it from that. While I'm getting the paste out, a few people have asked me about paste and being softer, and I know that in some climates the paste varies quite a bit. Oh, that's the wrong bit. Hang on. That's the bit there. So if you're finding that your paste is drying out too much, then what you can do is to add a little bit more glucose or glycerine when you're making your paste. Just try small amounts and see how it goes. And you will get quite a soft paste like I've got here. Now I have got some that I made up before, which is this lot here. Now this was the first lot that I made. Now this I'm finding quite stiff here. So what I've done is I've made up a softer paste and then I've mixed it in with it. So don't throw your paste away. Just make up a softer batch and then mix them together. I'm going to put that back because I've already mixed this one. So, I'll just pop those up there for a minute. So the first thing that we need to make is the column, which is this, which looks a bit like a bird actually when you look at it. I didn't really think about that before, but so what I've used there is I've used a 26 gauge wire, which I've used for everything. Right, so I'm going to start off with, you need a small amount of paste, because it is very small, is this. Now, if you notice on the template that I'm going to put on the website here, I have put a little, drawn out a little piece here, which is for this particular part. So if you want to measure it, then you can do it on that. Now, strictly speaking, when it's being made, another way you can do it is if you get your throat and you measure that in there, that should come to this join here between these two petals on either side here. So it doesn't want to be any bigger than that. So what we need to do next is we need to put a hook on the wire like that, and then if you lay that on your hand, and then you need a cell stick, which I have got here somewhere. When I find, there it is. With it being white on my board, I can't see it. So what we need to do first of all is to push that into that end bit there, and then if you just lay it on your finger, then just press down into the underneath of that, and then go to the back and then just pinch it up the back like that. Then if you take that out, get your wire and put your wire in just about there, about 1/4 of an inch away from this part here, and turn your hook round that way, and then hook that down into the thick part, because that's the thickest part of the paste. Just pinch it round the bottom just to make sure that's secure in there, and then put that to one side to dry. I've already got one that's dry somewhere when I find where I put it. I've lost it. Where is it? That's the one I've just done. I have got one somewhere, but I'll find that after. Oh, it's here. Here we are. I've got one that I made earlier. So the next thing that you need to do with that is we need a tiny ball of paste. So it wants to be about the size of a glass pinhead. Then get your glue. Pop that just where the wire is. And then that tiny ball of paste goes into there, like that, where the wire is. And then you either want a scalpel or your cutting tool, and what you need to do is to separate that in half now, into there, like that. Okay, so that's that bit done. The next thing that I need to do is to make the labellum. Now, believe it or not, I have actually made this video once, but I had a problem uploading it onto my computer. For some reason it wouldn't open, and I think it was because I hadn't formatted my new card that I put in this camera. So I'm having to do it again, but it does mean that I have made some petals earlier, one of each. So I only need to make one of each of the petals. Now you've got two lateral petals like that, and then you've got two lateral sepals, which are the two that go there, then these go there, and then you've got a dorsal sepal which goes down there. So if I show you one of the flowers, because I'd already put my spray together, so I'm going to have to undo all this. You've got your dorsal sepal there. Do it on this one. Dorsal sepal is there. Then you've got your two petals, and then you've got your lateral sepals at the back here, and then that's obviously your throat. Let's put that on up there, because I'm going to have to take that apart. Right, so I'm just going to make one of each of the sepals. I need to have a look and see what I've made. Right, so that is that one, I think. Yeah, so I need to make one of those, which is the opposite way, because you've got a fatter side on one side. So you need to make sure that you've got one of each of these. Hang on, got that wrong way round. That goes that side, and that goes that side. That's it. And then you've the same with these here. You've got a fatter side on the bottom here. So I've already got that one, I think. No, it's that one. Yeah. So I need that one. Then I also need one of those. And the throat. I've already made the dorsal sepal, but they're all made exactly the same thing. It's just a matter of working out. So don't forget, when you put them to dry, make sure that you put opposite ones next to each other so you know what you've done. Otherwise it can get a bit confusing. So what have I done with my rolling pin? I've lost my rolling pin. Oh, it's down there. Oh. Sorry about that, people. I must have knocked it down this afternoon. just get a piece of kitchen roll, we'll give that a wipe over. Right, so I'm going to put some white fat on my board before I start. As you know, I always roll out on white vegetable fat, unlike some people rolling it out on powder, which can dry your paste out. So don't use icing sugar or corn flour, because you could have problems with your paste, because you need to be able to use the paste you've got left over, and if you've rolled it out on something like that, it'll start to dry it out. Now, although I'm not putting a wire in the throat, you still need a ridge up the middle of it. So I'm going to cut all of the three pieces that I'm going to cut out of this same piece of paste with the ridge up the centre. As you know, I use my trusty ridge rolling pin for my ridges. So I'll do that up the middle. I've just got something on there, some colour on it. Just get rid of that. There we are. So first of all, I want to cut out the throat. So I'm just going to lay that gently on there. Don't put too much pressure on, because you don't want to get rid of your ridge, particularly when you come to do your petals and cut out. If you do it in sections like this, you'll find it's a lot easier to keep your shape. That's that one. Right, so I just need one of each of these. That one and that one. Make sure that they're central too. But don't forget that if you've got what I'm calling the fat side, it does come off more to this side, so you need to line up that part there. I'm going to use the small end of the cutting wheel for this. Doesn't matter if you're not completely on it. If you get a little bit extra, like I've gone slightly wide there, it doesn't matter. There we are, take those off. Just make sure I've got enough wires here. There's two there and one there. That's it. Saves me having to cut another wire up. I only need two anyway. Right, that's those. Now you can, if you want, use a rose petal veiner. If you haven't got that, then I'll do it with my silk veining tool, which is what I did in the last video. For those that haven't got them, this tool is the most useful tool you can get, or one of the most useful tools, for the simple reason that we use it a lot for everything. Right, so I'm going to start from the centre and roll out in a fan motion to get the veining into the petals. So again, start from your middle and roll round in a fan motion like that. Don't worry about missing the edge there, because we're going to frill that anyway. And then the same on here. So I'm going to start in the centre, roll out one way and roll out the other way. Then go to the other side and do the same on there. Into the centre, roll out one way and roll out the other way. Always make sure you go in a fan motion. And then what you do, put it on the edge of your fingers, and then I'm going to start frilling the edge. You need your point up in the air. Don't have it dug into your paste, because you'll end up with a ridge if you do. This top part is quite frilly, so you can go over it and go back over it again if necessary to get it really frilly. Then go on to the other side. stuck to that a bit. Never mind, move that out of the way. And then go onto your side pieces. These aren't quite as frilly, but you need a little bit of frilling on there, so they're not flat. That's it. And onto that one. Oops. Got that. Right, so that's that bit done. So then you need to take your dried centre, wherever I've put it. I've put it down somewhere. What have I done with it? I've lost it again. I've just had it in my hand. Just bear with me, I get a bit dizzy like this sometimes when I'm doing videos. And at my age I get a bit forgetful as well, so that's what I'm doing there. So it's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Don't know what I've done with it. Right, so we'll do it on the soft one that I've done. I just have to be... oh, there it is, isn't it? I've just picked it up. Silly me. Right, so what we need to do here, we're going to glue just up this bottom edge here and down that side as well. This is the tricky bit. So if you get it in your hand like that, and then you need to go with the point that way. So basically what you want is the part you've hollowed out wants to go downwards like that. So if you keep it on your hands like that, put your point in there and then bring the side petal up onto there like that, and then bring the other side petal up onto there like that. Now you can let go of the other part. Just make sure that they're attached to your column there. If necessary, put a bit more glue on if you have to, if you haven't got enough on. So that's going to be that part, but we want this to come up here a little bit. So what you need to do now is to get your foam. I've already got one here that I've dried, and if you pop it into your foam like that, in fact, probably the best place to put it is on the edge here, like that. So that goes backwards. So then we can go on to the other two petals. So now we need to get the wires into these. And I've made this paste a little bit thicker than I would like. But this is just part for the demonstration. So get your wire up your centre, feel it between your finger and your thumb. Get it as far up as you can. I've gone up to about there with that wire. And the same with the other petal. I got told off in competition because they said you could have the centre of your paste thicker as long as you get your edges thinner. Personally, I didn't agree with that because I look at a lot of competition work and sometimes I think that paste is too thick on that. But there again, that's my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that over with the ridge on the opposite side, and this time in a fan motion, go outwards like that, and then in a fan motion the other way like that. So that's your thicker side there, and then on the edge of your finger with the end up in the air, you can frill the edges now. Go all the way around the edges and back the other way. So that's one. So then we'll go on to the other one. again on your opposite side, so the ridge is on the back side there, into the centre, round in a fan motion, the other way, and then onto the edge of your finger and through the edges of your petals. If your fingers get a bit sore, just change fingers. That's what I've just done. There we are. So that's that done. And then what we need to do then is they need to go onto your foam. You're not looking to cup them too much. You just want a bit of shape. So if you just pop it in between your cups there, like that. Hang on, wrong side. That's the right side, I think. No, that's side. Right, so I put those to one side. So next thing I'm going to show you is the leaves. The leaves are a bit strange on these orchids. If I bring that spray back over and show you, the sort of long, very, very thin leaves with a ridge down the middle. So how you do that, start off with a small ball of paste of the light green, like that. Start that off into a sausage. Get your 26 gauge wire up the centre of the sausage and out of the end. Then start rolling. I'm just trying to think, I've done something else with using a similar method to this, and I can't just for the life of me think what it was. It's a bit greasy on here, that's why it's sliding about a bit instead of rolling. Right, let's have a look at that. Yeah, that's practically up to the end of the wire. I'm just going to move it over here where it's a bit drier, that's better. Right, so once you've done that, the next thing to do then is to get any veiner. This is a hydrangea veiner. So I'm going to use the flat back. So it doesn't matter what veiner it is, as long as it's big enough for the length of the leaf. Give it a good press. So then you've got your flat leaf like that. So the next thing we're going to do is to get your cutting tool. This is a little bit wider than the others, but I'm not using this one anyway. It makes it easier for me to show you what I'm doing. Then you need to make a ridge up the centre, just gently, don't cut through it. Just make a line up the middle, like that. And then, what you need to do then is to bend it, because they've got a bit of a strange shape. So, we start off by bending the first part over your finger, like that. And then with the end bend it back that way, so it's a bit like an S, like that. And then if you just shape your leaves up, my other ones are a bit pointed, more pointed on the end, but this I've done this wider on purpose so you can see what I'm doing. But I'd do it a bit slimmer than this, so roll your paste thinner. And then you can just get your foam and just lay it down on its side like that and just leave it to dry. You want to be about that thin. That's one that I did earlier. So if I put that against there. Right, so I'm going to stop my video now because I need those petals to dry a bit, and I'll come back when they've set a bit more and finish the video off. Right, well, I'm back. Everything's dried now, so we can get on with the colouring. So I'm going to bring my colours over that I've used for my orchids, and I've just left a couple of petals to colour and a couple of leaves. So I'm going to start off with the petals for a start off. These are the petals and the sepals, and I'm using here Garnet from Edible Art. And what you do is start quite heavily off at the bottom of your petals, like that, and then releasing the pressure, so you're doing it more gently. Gradually pull the colour up there. Now this is one of the sepals, so I'm not going quite as high up as I am on the petals. These are the petals, the middle ones. Oops. Start quite heavily at the bottom. And then just gently releasing the pressure, pull it up. So it comes a bit further up, without putting any more colour on your brush. I'm going slightly higher up with this. And what I didn't do on the other petal was to do the back. You don't necessarily have to do the back, because it depends on what you're doing it for. I mean, if it's a competition, then I would do. But if you're doing it for pleasure or for a cake for somebody, it doesn't really matter, because they can't see the backs anyway. When you're in competition, they check everything. And just gradually pull that up. There we are. That one. Just do the back on that one. I'm trying not to put any more colour on here, because I don't need. Well, I do that and do it off of the throat, but then again, I'm not doing it quite as heavily on the back, because like most things, the back is never as dark as the front. Right, so that's those two. So we'll get on to the throat now. And first of all, what I'm going to do with this is, I've got some lemon colour here. I'm going to find my brush. What I've done with it. There it is, that's the one. This isn't one of my usual colours. This is one from Rainbow Dust, called Lemon Tart. But what you want basically is a bright yellow like that, depending on what make you're using. Just put that back off of that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go right down into the throat here, in the centre, and pull that up there, just there. That's where the pollen is on most flowers, down at the base there. So you're doing the same on an orchid if you would do on any other flower. Right, so we'll get rid of that brush. Then we go back to the burgundy again, which means I'm going to have to put some more colour on there for this. Because I hate wasting powder, but I mean you don't need a great deal. And again, like you've done with your petals, I'm going to start around the outside of the yellow part here. I'm going to do it up this side first. So you start quite heavily at the bottom there, going round where you put the yellow, right the way around, like that. And then very lightly pull it up. And you're going to pull it up quite a long way this time. Let me just look at my others that I've dusted. Yeah. Whoops. Dropped one. You're just going to pull those up practically right to the very edge. You might have to rest it on your fingers, because with this place being so flexible, it does move around a lot. And then I'm going to go over the back of the column here. And very lightly all over the back here, back of your throat. You start by just going round that part first, the bottom part, just to get it going, and then pull it up. There we are. That's that bit done. So what we need now is we need some purple. I've got a brush here somewhere for that. I'll find what I've done with it. There it is. The colour I've used for this is called Violet from Edible Art. So if you turn it round again, and basically you're just going to go over the part where it's quite heavily round the edge of the yellow. Just go around it. It's a bit like a halo. It's the only way I can describe it. Just makes it a bit darker there. There we are. So that's the throat done. Slightly a little bit offside, but you can just adjust that a little bit. This is why I like the flexible paste, because you can do that. You can't, once it's dried with normal flour paste, you can't move anything around. Right, so we can get rid of those off of that and get rid of this here. Now I've got another piece of, oops, dropped a brush. It wasn't a brush. And now we bring the green over for the leaves. So what I've used for the leaves is tropical lime, which is that colour. And again, I'm only using small brushes here because we're doing quite small areas. So I've got a couple of leaves here to do. And just brush all the way up your leaves. Won't bother with that one because that was too wide anyway. What I didn't do when I last did the spray was to put a bit of burgundy on the edge of my leaves. So I'm just going to bring those, all my leaves over that I've done. That's all of them there. And I'm just going to go back into the garnet. That's a purple brush, you don't want that one. Is it that one? I think it's that one. Yeah. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to catch the top edge of these leaves a bit, just a tiny little bit, just on the very edge. And all of these. I'm just going to come back when I've finished doing all these. Right, I'm on to my last one now. Just catch them a little bit on the back as well. There we are, that's all those done. Right, we can get rid of those colours. Make sure you put the right tops on the right colours. One of the problems with when I was teaching, some of my students had a habit of putting the wrong covers back on the wrong colours. Just get rid of that. Right, so the next part is to start putting everything together. So I'm just going to sort all my petals out. That's those, and that. Right, so I'm using half-width tape to put all this together. So again, make sure that you've got the sticky side and start that off underneath your throat. Nip it in with your nail and start twisting it. Once you've got that twisted on, then you can pull that up to your flower. I'm just going to bring the camera up a little bit this way so you can see what I'm doing here, just in case, because I do have a habit of going off camera in some of my previous videos. And the wide part of the petal, bend that back, and that goes in towards your throat, like that. That's the wrong one, it's that one. Doesn't matter if you haven't got the wires right down to the tape at this particular point, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape down a little bit, and we can pull those wires down then, so you get the wires, pull them in so your petals are nice and tight into the tape there. That's it. So I'm just going to take that off. I'm leaving those petals up there for the time being until I've got the rest of them in. Then you don't catch them when you're taping the rest in. Get your tape started, then put your dorsal sepal in, which was the right way up. That's the right way. So that goes in there in the middle, like that. Make sure that's pulled down to the wire. Now you can pull these petals, these sepals down a bit. Get hold of the wire when you're pulling them down. Don't pull them down by the petal, because you can end up with petals coming off the wires if you're not careful. And then bend your wires down for your wide petals. You keep your nail underneath the end there like that, and then bend it down. You should be able to bend it down in the right place. And then that goes in between there, like that. Bring that back around there, and then the next one goes in there, in between those two, like that. As I said before, the orchids tend to mostly, all the petals go the same way. It's just different shapes and things like that that make them different. You can pull your wires in now. Make sure those are all nice and tight in, and then you can tape down. This particular point, it doesn't matter whether they're in the right position or not, because we can adjust that once we've got them all taped in. So tape down and make sure you've got all your wires taped in. There we are, that's far enough. And then you can just adjust your petals then. Those two at that side, that. Hang on, what have we done here? That one's disappeared round the back, so that wants to come round there, round the side. That one wants to come back round there. Like that. goes underneath there. Like I say, with normal sugar flowers, with normal sugar paste, you wouldn't be able to do this because they are more flexible to get back in position. Right, that's that done. So I'm just going to put that to one side. That's not one of my best because I've already got all of my bits and pieces here already. Mislaid something somewhere. Where's that gone? Just bear with me. Oh God. Sorry, my camera went off a bit then. I'm just going to tighten my camera up, so I'm just going to switch it off. Right, sorry about that. My camera came, so I don't know whether I've missed anything off because, like I say, it's difficult for me to see what's going on up there when I'm looking down here. So, again, I'm going to get some half-width Nile green tape to put my leaves together. So I'm going to start with those. I'm going to do my orchids first. So the thing that I need to mention is that this part here with the throat needs to come out, so that's going to come down that way. That's the right way around, so that's going to go against your stem. So if I put that one in first. So if you do these separately, you find it easy to get the whole thing together. So I'm going to tape down probably about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and then put in the next orchid, which is this one here. So I want that to come out that way. And the reason for that is because we don't want the flowers to overlap. They do grow fairly close together on the plants, but we don't want them too close together, so that's going to go there. So I'm going to come down about another 1.5 inches with this one, and then you can put in the other one. So I'm just doing 3 in here. I always tend to prefer, like florists do things in odd numbers. They tend to look better like that. If you put even numbers in, they don't quite look right. No matter how they grow in nature, it's just one of those things with a lot of things that odd numbers tend to look better in groups. Right, get down to the bottom with that. So that's the orchids together. Now you can adjust them if you want to change the positions until you get them just right. So that's how they should look when you get them all together. So here I've got a 20 gauge wire, which is what I'm going to tape everything onto. So I'm going to start that off at the top like that. And then have a look at your leaves, because if you've got different sizes, you want to start off with smaller ones towards the top. So if you just get them all together just to see how they go. It's a bit bigger, that can go over there. I think those are all more or less the same. Yeah. So I'm going to start off with that one. There's no hard and fast pattern. I am alternating, but make sure you get the wire right down to the wire you're putting it in. Take it down. So we're not doing alternate sides like you do with some leaves. These, it doesn't matter how they go, because they tend to grow on orchids. They tend to grow quite higgledy-piggledy on some of them. Is a better way of putting it. That means that they're sagged around and they're not in any uniform way, shape or form. Just tape that down a little bit further. Put that one in. Now you can put aerial roots in if you want. The aerial roots, if you're going to make those, just do those with wires. You don't need to use any paste to do the aerial roots, but they are quite curly. I haven't added them in here because for what I'm doing, it's not totally necessary. Unless you want them to be really, really stick with what you're doing. If you want to put them in, you can do. That's up to you. That's your choice. But on the real plant, it would have aerial roots growing in between. Aerial roots, if you don't know, if you don't grow orchids, is where the plant gets its moisture from the air. Because quite a lot of orchids do grow in trees. Some of them, quite a number grow in the ground, but a lot of them do actually grow in trees, which means that they're clinging onto the tree, so the only place they can get the moisture from is from the air. And that's what the aerial roots are for. I've got quite a few orchids. Some have aerial roots, some don't. You can always tell when you need to water your orchids as well, because in the case of it'll come to me in a minute. Phalaenopsis orchids, they're the most commonly ones that you see in supermarkets and places like that. Some of the roots grow above the compost that's in, and you can tell when it wants watering because the roots will turn white. And then when you water them, make sure that you dip them 3 times in water, and then I put water in from the top of the pot to there we are, that's those in, to make sure that the aerial roots are covered. And what you'll find is when you water them that the roots will turn green. I've gone quite a way down so that everything grips well down there. So now you can bring your leaves out and you can adjust them as you want. So there we are, that's what the leaves look like. So I'm now going to go on to some full width tape now. I've got some there, here we are. I don't know whether I've got enough here, there should be enough for that. So I'm going to start off just at the base here. So I'm going to first of all stretch my tape, make sure I get the stickiest side. Start that off just underneath the leaves there, and then I'm going to put my just tape down a bit. The reason we don't use full width tape all the time is because it makes your stem thicker, and if you want a thin stem you need to use a thinner tape rather. That's why I tend to use half width tape. Some books tell you to use quarter width tape. I find that very difficult to work with, especially if you're a beginner, so I tend to work more with the half width tape. It's very rare that I ever use quarter width. I don't think I've done it in any of my videos because it breaks very easily, and most things need half width tape anyway. So we'll just carry on with that right down to the bottom. Take that off. Get rid of those bits there. So there we are. That's the I forgot what I'm doing. I've forgotten which orchid I'm doing now. Never mind, I did tell you at the beginning, so you've got it in there. And if you want to bend this about and give that a bit more movement, you can bend that around just to get that as it is. So there we are, Papilionanthe Orchid. That's just early in the morning for me, my brain's not working properly. So there's your Papilionanthe Orchid with some leaves. I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway, so don't forget, if you don't subscribe to the channel, if you subscribe it's free, then you'll know when I'm uploading new videos. And if you've got any comments about anything, questions you'd like to ask me, leave those in the section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I do check them regularly during the day. And there we are. So take care, stay safe, see you soon.